Everyone's favorite topic, complex numbers and how to simplify things with I. So I is our imaginary number, and it's actually the square root of negative things. Specifically, I is for the square root of -1. But when you see that I, that's what that means. We're going to talk about combining like terms, multiplying, dividing, and then powers of I. So here we go. When we combine imaginary numbers, we're going to combine like terms. So -3, this minus sign actually can come inside here and be distributed. So it's a +5, a +3i, minus an 8i. And so we can combine our like terms. -3 plus 5 is a +2. And then we have 6 plus 3, which is 9, minus 8, which is 1. So 2 minus I is the simplified version of that expression there. When we multiply, we're going to FOIL just like it looks. So we're going to do -2 times 4. We're going to do -2 times I. We're going to do -I times a +4. And then we're going to do -I times a +I, which is -I squared. Now, I squared is really what happens when you square a square root. I squared is then just a -1. So this is a -1. -1. So when we combine -2 minus 4, we get 6i. -8 minus a negative, this is a plus sign. So we have -8 plus 1, which is a -7. So -7 minus 6i is our final answer here. When we divide complex numbers, we treat them similar to how we would divide radicals. We need to multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate is the opposite sign for your imaginary part. So 2 minus 5i, the conjugate is 2 plus 5i. We're going to multiply by the conjugate in the numerator and the denominator. What happens here is a grand old foiling of both the numerator and the denominator. So you'll have 8 plus 20i plus 2i plus 5i squared all over 4 minus 10i plus 10i, and then a minus 25i squared. Now remember, I squared is really a -1, so if we're going to rewrite this, we have 8 plus 22i plus a 5 times a -1 all over 4. The minus and the plus actually cancel out, so we have minus a 25, -1. So here we have 3 plus 22i all over 4 plus 25, which is 29. Moving on to our powers of I, we need to remember, and you need to remember because they won't be given to you, the following powers of I. I to the 0 power is 1. I to the 1 power is I squared is -1. I cubed is -I. And then the pattern repeats with I to the 4th. So how do we determine what I to the 26th is equivalent to or same as? We take 26 and we divide it by 4 because our pattern repeats every 4th exponent. So 4 goes into 26 6 times because 24 is that multiple. And you've got a remainder of 2, which means I to the 26th is really the same as I squared, or as we know I squared, -1. Let's do the same thing with 31. 31, how many times can it go into 4 go into it? 4 goes into 31 7 times. You've got 28, and so then your remainder is 3. So really, I to the 31 is the same as I to the 3rd power, which we know is -I. And then lastly, I to the 33rd power, 4 goes into 33, 8 times. We have a remainder of 1, which means really this is the same thing as I to the 1 power, or just I.